All right, so I'm saying the next generation of black people are cooked, right? I've seen some online where these people where it was an influencer that looked like that was doing a vlog, like a vlog style TikTok, and it was completely fake. And I says, man, we're done. We're done. With all of the stuff that we have going on in the black community, we're done. We're done. You know, they don't have to send the CIA or COINTELPRO. They don't have to do none of that stuff. Even though we're dealing with a generation of bots, there's a lot of bots online. The black community is good. Let me tell you why. So I'll just start with Generation X. Generation X, that's the generation just before me. And what they were dealing with was the popularity of hip hop. Hip hop was kind of this thing that was very niche. It was not as popular as it is today. It was kind of seen as something that was like, oh, this is cute. This is like a little something that the young kids are doing. It wasn't taken seriously. This is the reason why you had like Will Smith. He won a Grammy, but he wasn't really invited to the Grammys because hip hop wasn't really taken serious like that. But hip hop was in its infancy. But right around the time that they introduced NWA and the gangster rap, that was the beginning of the destruction for Generation X. Because although it did bring a lot of light to state-sanctioned violence against a lot of black or people of color, it also gave this the gangster rap era brought in a lot of the toxic masculinity concepts, the patriarchal concepts, a lot of the stuff that we kind of think what it takes to be a man. You got to be tough, you got to be hard. So Generation X, once they got introduced to gangster rap, it was pretty much over with. Now, does that mean that every black person that listens to gangster rap is rolling around with a weapon and busting their weapons in the air and going after people sagging? No. So this is not like a respectability rant. This is just simply saying that was what was created and marketed and started to become very corporate. Once you saw NWA become popular and you had Ice Cube and you had, Respect to Ice-T, and you had all of these people that were coming out. Well, Ice-T was kind of before, but this was just like a new thing that was being marketed to the black youth. Like, man, you got to be gangster, you got to be hard. Now, forever Tupac, because Tupac was kind of part of Generation X, and his music had substance and it had meaning, and you did have conscious rap like Public Enemy. I'm specifically talking about gangster rap, which Tupac kind of floated in between both worlds, conscious and gangster rap. But it did a number because you had a lot of people being influenced by this music saying, look, I want to be a man. This is what it takes to be a man. This is my concept of masculinity. I want to be that. Right? And so a lot of people, they kind of gravitated towards that. A lot of black men. Of course, you had the 1994 crime bill. The rest is history. Right? So I believe that was like the first. I mean, that was like one of the methods to kind of wash the Generation X. Some of the Generation X guys are still coming out of prison, are still being locked up from stuff that they did in the 90s or the late 90s, early 2000s. So then comes my era, which is the Millennials. And the Millennials, we came in more of the same. What was being marketed to us? More gangster rap, more, the devaluing of our women. Be a pimp, be a player, right? You got, at that time, Snoop Dogg were having women on leash leashes. A lot of the DVD era stuff when I was coming up as a youngster, that was promoted. That was like, wow, man, to be a pimp, sugar free. This is like being a pimp was like, yeah, you got all of these women. Of course, we were being we were influenced by hip hop. We was influenced by what we saw in the music videos. We wasn't reading books. We wasn't enlightened. So after Tupac died, you had more of the Crunk movement becoming popular. So the Crump, not Crunk, like Little John and the Crunk era came in. Now it was all about partying, getting drunk, getting faded. Go out here and party like it's like a rock star, right? And that was when I was young. That was like when I was a young man. I just saw who was that? The Yin Yang Twins performing at SeaWorld. Right? But this was their era. This was like, man, 2004, 2005. You're a millennial, you know what I'm talking about. They took over the scene. So, with my generation, we were taught, kind of like the toxic nature of how to cope, like poor coping mechanisms. This is why you'll see some guys that are millennials and they can't stop. They can't stop. They have a toxic relationship with marijuana. They have a toxic relationship with alcohol because these were the coping methods that were taught to us through the Little John era, the Crunk era. So that's how they pretty much washed out my generations. In addition to the stuff that we were already learning from gangster rap. Gangster rap kind of took a back seat, and now the South was starting to take over. Now you start to have Lil Wayne coming up. Lil Wayne came out. He was on fire. He pretty much took over the whole hip hop scene. He was blowing up. He started rapping about lean and drugs. The people in the South was rapping about lean and drugs and all of this stuff. And then you had Future come out, and then Future was pretty much the stuff that he was talking about, the influence that he had on the youth and people my age and younger. It was like, that's self-explanatory. So you had the whole lean and scissor situation where you had a lot of us influence more poor coping mechanisms. And that influenced the young thugs, the little Uzi Verts, and that following generation, which was more the same, more the stuff that kind of like what Lil Wayne was talking about. And I just seen a freestyle where Kodak Black is rapping about. No, he was freestyling with these two girls, and he was rapping about meth. I'm like, what? Like that's just that. But where's hip hop headed? If we've had legendary rappers who've died off of their addiction to lean. Right, we lost a lot of people in my generation. So now we moving on up into this generation. And this generation, the warfare now is digital. It's become online with the whole pop the balloon. I'm talking about Generation Z. Pop the balloon. The gender wars that you see, right? Like, if you don't like this person, if they don't fit your ideal of what society's beauty standards are, you pop a balloon. So we become more. The war has been done digitally. You have more Generation Z that are educated, I would say you guys are like far more educated than what my generation was or my brother's generation was, which was Generation X and Millennials. Right? You guys are far more educated. Like you guys kind of went through the Black Lives Matter situation. And you saw kind of like the struggle and the fight for black liberation. So you guys are a lot more educated. You guys know a lot more about Palestine. Um, you guys know a lot. Oh, it's in my phone getting hot, so I gotta wrap this up. But the warfare is digital. So when I saw this, the whole fake selfie influencer doing the whole caricature, you don't know who is behind the account. You don't know who is behind the account. It can literally be a non-black person behind the account creating these stereotypes and these caricatures of what they think a black person would say and do. And you have black people sharing it. I said, we're cooked. We're done. These are fictional characters. These AI. They look hyper realistic, meaning that if somebody's under the influence of drugs and they see this, they're laughing. They're having a good time. They're like, wow, this is hilarious. This is funny. This kind of reminds me of my generation and the generation X, how we laughed at the Chappelle show, but a lot of that stuff was like stereotypes. It was like minstrel show type comedy. That's the reason why Dave Chappelle eventually was like, you know what? I can't do this because I feel like they're laughing at me and they're not laughing with me. So he left the show. But I say that to say that stuff is happening right now as well. And it's happening by people you have no idea. And this stuff is being shared by us. That's what's crazy. We laughing at it. We're sharing it. Other non-black people sharing it. So what does this do? This cements the biases and the stereotypes that they already have against us. So this is why I say we are cooked as a community. We are cooked. You know, this is one of many reasons why we're cooked, but I just don't see. I just don't see how we escape this, because a lot of people, I'm seeing more and more videos of people recognizing this and they're calling this out, because I believe, like I said, I believe the Generation Z, they're very, very educated and they're not just going for the okie doke. But this stuff is very harmful, especially when you talk about wanting to create progress, or you trying to move forward as a people. I feel so bad for you guys, because it's just more of a battle that you guys have and that we have as a community. It's like, man. But yeah, that was just on my mind. I had to go on a rant about that. The way that you can combat that, stay educated. You know, not just read any books, but read books that are going to actually teach you something about the history of not only where we come from, but the tactics that have been used against the black community. You know, read about what they did to the Black Panthers. Read about different struggles, you know, stuff that happened during the Jim Crow era. Read about the stuff that they were doing. And now I feel like this is the modern version of them just giving it to us, man. You know, us as a black community, man, we got to be vigilant.